Going on screen, I would suggest moving over to YouTube, but go ahead and share the TikTok live with other people so that way it can be broadcasted out to more people so more people can be seen going on screen. I would suggest moving over to YouTube, but go ahead and share the TikTok live with other people so that way it can be broadcasted out to more people so more people can be. I'm getting it coming back to me here. Okay, so I got my link. I'm going to go share the link. By the way, if you would like to, this is a Zoom meeting, so there will be people on the meeting. I don't know if anyone's going to talk today, but to be part of the meeting, you have to be in the trust community. Okay, and if you're part of my trust community, you will have a link to join in on the live and converse. All right. Otherwise, I'm not going to share the link outside of there due to some disgusting things that have happened in the past. But if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching on TikTok, feel free to ask any questions or make any comments. Whatever they end up being, I don't care. Like it's game on. We're doing whatever you want. If you have arguments, critiques, you can do that as well. I'm totally open for that. All right, as well. That's the whole idea here is to really just ensure that people really know what is true and what's not true. Okay, and I think that is probably the primary thing that we need to be doing is basically hashing out what the truth from fiction. And remember, fiction of law is a doctrine that they're going to operate off of a presumption of something being true, even though it's not. Okay, but what we're trying to do is get to real truth, right? We're trying to cut through those fictions of law and get to actual truth, which the truth is that we have natural rights as men and women, okay? And the Constitution is only there to protect those rights and to ensure that government has a proper structure, okay? Government should have a proper structure and limitations. Okay, without those limitations, it runs rampant. And I did just make a video about this on Rumble, about how they're using that commerce clause in non-commercial settings. And by doing that, what's happening is it's creating all kinds of issues and stuff like that. Here's what I'm going to actually put I'm going to leave the sound on so that people on TikTok can hear the conversation that's going on over here. All right. But there's a lot of things to talk about today, and there's a lot of things that are going on. But I see you're here. How's it going?
Going good. How are you, Joe?
Not bad. I know you have a situation going on.
Oh yeah, it's been fun.
All right. So just as a preface for everybody, we're not giving any legal advice. These are all suggestions of things that one could do, and it is up for the listener to determine what they want to do with that information. So I'm not taking any responsibility for any decision anyone makes on any suggestions that are thrown out throughout this thing. So remember, all for educational and entertainment purposes only.
Sounds good.
All right. So just in case we get into any of these things, all these talks and stuff like that, it's best to people understand that the situation really is. These are just suggestions, and the listener is to do whatever they're choosing. So I know you have a situation going on, right?
Yeah.
And
So this
remember, we are live streaming on TikTok and YouTube, so it's your call if you want to have a conversation about it or not.
yeah, that's cool. I don't care. It's not a big deal. But it is, but So pretty much what happened was the state that I used to live in 5 years ago, when before I started doing a lot of this stuff, I moved, and when I did my taxes, my tax lady was like, "Well, you moved out of the state, so we'll take those off," because the way it worked was I lived in that state, worked in another. Um, the tax credits transferred from the state that I worked in to the state that I lived in, but it wasn't enough to cover because the state had raised their taxes. So fast forward, I think it was last year, I got a letter saying, "Hey, you owe us taxes." And by that time, I had started this process, so I knew some stuff. I knew some laws. I knew my rights. So I sent them a letter back. I'm like, actually, no, I don't. And I listed out some laws that showed the states don't have the right to tax anything. But unfortunately, I did leave out the Buck Act. Um, So there's that. But anyways, I ended up moving, like having a kid, all this other stuff. So I never, like, anything else that they sent me, I never got, I guess. I just kind of figured that if something were mailed to me, they would like find my new address, but nothing ever got to me. So um this past week, I go to buy breakfast and I found out my account is $0, 0 cents. I'm like, what the heck happened? I'm gonna find out there was a court order for them to access my account and take what they felt that I owed them, and I was never made aware of these proceedings or anything. So I was like, well, this kind of sucks. So I've got I moved some things around and I made it so that like they'll have all their money or whatever, and because they took everything in the account, and then literally the next day when my paycheck hit, they took all of that too. So I made it so that I'll have some money this coming week, and from there I'm just gonna do that administrative process on them. The only thing that I was unsure of was, since it's already kind of like a done deal, how do I go about that? Because I don't think I'll be able to do a letter of acceptance or whatever. So
In your case, one of the things that may benefit you, well, first of all, there's no due process. They just had this court order. They never told you anything, right? You were never given any notice that there was even a court case, and they were like, "Yeah, just steal his money." That's just straight up theft in that case, right? If they had written to you telling you that there was going to be a court case, they're going to pursue you. Hi, there then yes, then they would, you know, by default they would have had the right to do that. But there's due process requirements under the Fifth and 14th Amendment, and no one can be deprived of property without due process of law. So you have to be given notice of the lawsuit first, right? Or the debt collection first before they can take any of these funds. They also have to prove that this is a valid debt. They have to verify and validate the debt before they go and do this. All right. Now, this sounds like an ex parte, right? Ex parte means like not all parties were there, like a missing party. And that's what it sounds like. This is, you have the right to challenge this, right? Because if it's an ex parte order, all right, then you have a right to challenge that, saying, "Hey, look, I was never even informed. This is about my currency and being able to pay for my family, your father, right? And you have a duty to, you have a higher duty to use those funds for your child and your family than to give it over to the state that's just going to eat it up on vacations and other bullshit that it's never going to be used for anything positive. All right. I mean, look who you're paying taxes to. All right. These people like to hang out on certain islands with certain people, which I can't really say on TikTok.
yep, yep,
But just remember, we are live streaming on TikTok, and TikTok is very sensitive. Okay.
yeah,
Little
sissy.
cats over there, if you know what I mean.
So would I be right in writing an affidavit and sending it to them with all of that kind of surmised in there?
Um,
The Fourth and Fifth Amendment, ex parte, their like all this other stuff, their lack of notification.
what I would do is you could do a motion to quash or vacate the levy or garnishment, right? Is what I would do, right?
Okay.
Do a motion to quash it, right? File in the same court that issued the order. You would be arguing lack of notice or improper procedure, right? I mean, you'd have to look up that state's procedures and then show that that state didn't follow its correct procedures. And the reason why you do that is because this is how lawyers win cases all the time, is by a procedural defect. And that's what we're going to do, is do a procedural defect, because that's the weak. One of the things the courts will recognize, you can make all these other arguments. I'm free, I'm sovereign, I don't have to pay tax, blah, blah. They're going to say, fuck you. They don't care, because it's not about you. It's about the legal entity. And the legal entity does have a duty to perform. All right. So if you attack it by procedural stuff, because remember that whole thing about the legal entity and you not being that's all part of that fiction of law thing. It's presumed under the fiction of law doctrine that you are that entity.
Right.
So, I mean, one thing is you can always send in an assumed name certificate, right? Showing them the separation of you and the entity. but I would just do the motion to quash, right? Or vacate the garnishment with that court by lack of notice and improper procedure. Okay.
All right.
If I mean this is just came from this was like funds you got from working, right? From being at work.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're just wages.
Um, yeah, you can petition to have them returned, especially since how many kids do you have? One.
Yeah.
Okay. How old?
9 months.
You have a baby? There's no way. No, they got to give you the money to say, look, I just got a new baby. Like, you can't take this money. Like, this is kind of important. You know, if this judgment was entered without you being notified, right?
That's what I was kind of thinking. I'm just like, I mean, that right there stood out immediately because I'm like, the ex parte, like, and I didn't like unless they sent something to the old address. I haven't got anything.
Yeah. So as a side note, because on TikTok, I have Karen here saying that the administrative process works, and we had a great success with that because I helped her with the administrative process, and we got back in an insurance company that was trying to like really pummel her into the ground.
Mm,
So it was a big success, and I'm very happy that that worked out with her. Um,
good for her.
yeah, it worked. I mean, this was in a lawsuit. There was an active lawsuit going on. We did the administrative process during that suit, and they said they just dropped the suit and said they're not going to bother with her anymore. So, and we didn't even finish the process. We remitted, and they quit in the middle of it. I think they knew they're like, all right, forget it. She's going to win this one. But the other thing is that you can if you were to you can vacate the judgment itself for lack of jurisdiction because of the fact that you were never properly notified, right, regarding this. This is like a default judgment without service, which that's a lack of jurisdiction there because if they don't tell you that this is happening, then they don't have jurisdiction, right? It's like doing an action without your consent, and that's actually what it is. But you can't say my consent. You have to say notice. I was never properly noticed. I didn't get serviced on this case. So the fact that this was happening without even me being told, that's a lack of jurisdiction. That's the proper way to argue jurisdiction. You don't go in, like you can. I mean, the argument that they don't have jurisdiction to enforce certain, like the money thing, that's totally true. But you have to argue it in a way the court will recognize it under their fiction of law,
I
right?
understand.
So that's the thing is like we have to know that they're like you see all those sovereign citizen fail court cases, right? And these guys are talking about this stuff, and they go in there. They're not wrong in what they're saying. It's just that because of the fiction of law doctrine covers that, right? The
Yep.
courts won't hear that argument. So what you do is you have to use that filter and take the truth and filter it through the fiction of law. And out comes on the other side is a valid argument that you can use, but the premise is behind that fiction of law where you have the real truth behind it. All right. If that
You
makes
got to say it in a way that they will understand, because otherwise, you guys are just constantly missing each other.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, if someone goes, well, you don't have jurisdiction over me because I'm an American. I'm not a U.S. citizen, and they go, just stupid stuff. You go, well, look, I wasn't properly serviced on this. If you were in those situations where they did all the steps, the procedures correctly, then you can start making the argument about, well, this is an assumed name certificate. That's a business. You guys are not properly registered. Prove to me that you're properly registered to do business, and they really can't do that.
Mm.
So if all right, and this could be rare because they're going to probably pummel you with all kinds of like statutes that show they have the right to do this, but the seizure probably or could have happened without any kind of lawful process. You could actually sue them in federal court under a civil rights claim. Unfortunately, that's the only remedy we have at the moment is a civil rights claim, but you can do that um, after all that. All right. If they don't give you the money back, you can go and turn it into a civil rights claim because they're not giving you due process of law under the Fifth Amendment. You know, in the civil rights complaint, though, you would have to use the Fifth and the 14th Amendment, which I don't like, but it does help the case a bit. They tend to kind of bend the knee to the 14th Amendment. And in those cases, remember, it's your person, it's not you under the 14th Amendment. And you
Right.
can verify that inside your court case. Like, hey, look, my person, was violated under this, under civil rights, 42 U.S. Code 1983, right? So that would be probably the best ways to go about it is doing stuff like that as a starter.
Okay.
And then from there, we could, see how they, I think the motion to quash and vacate might be a good first step and see how they respond to that and give them the procedural defects. You were never properly serviced, right? No proper notice, right? Lack of jurisdiction because you were never properly noticed on these things. And that's probably going to be a good way to get started. That's just my suggestion.
Okay. Perfect. I was kind of thinking along the same lines. Um, but yeah, that's as far as your administrative process goes. But I think that I'll probably do the motion to quash first, and then I'll go after. I'm getting my money back, but
And
it'll
just remember that motion to quash, that could be the start of the administrative process because if the judge refuses and doesn't give a valid excuse or valid constitutional or lawful reason why, if your motion is set up real nicely, showing all the defects, right, and he still denies it, well, one thing is he is an agent for the state, so it's his own paycheck he's fighting over right now. And keep that stuff in mind. But he does have to uphold the procedural defects and go, now, you know what? He's right. The procedures were done wrong. We're going to vacate that motion. We're going to vacate that the garnishment. But if they don't do that, that's the start of the administrative process. You're going to bring that up to the Supreme Court and the Attorney General of the state and the United States, and you're going to put those people on as witnesses. Okay, and then you can also put it into a district court, a federal court, and just you put it in as a case, an uh, unnamed defendant. You're just a plaintiff, but you're just putting in that all that stuff into that court case as a miscellaneous case. And then later on, when you need to, if in the case you need to, your administrative process will already be on file in a federal court case that you can just turn on and say, yeah, you can name that state as the defendant, okay, and then put them or maybe the Department of Taxation or whatever, not the whole state, but do the department that took the money and name them as a defendant. Now you're going to go for civil rights violations, right? Lack of due process, right, and all that good stuff.
all right. Sounds good.
Everything in that court case, so you could just open it up, say, yes, I'm going to turn this civil rights case. Here's your paperwork is already filed. Make sure you file all their stuff in with it, so that way they can see what's going on. And then boom, they're the defendant, and now you got the case, and you're already. It's like you're like 95% there. Okay, with winning
Sounds
that.
good. All right. Well, thank you, Joe. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We'll see it. We'll see how it goes.
These guys are crazy, man. They've weaponized the judicial system. It's not supposed to be a weapon. It's supposed to be a tool for the people to ensure, their rights are protected and that the correct people uh, get, get justice, right? They have to rain justice on the correct people. But what they've done with these courts is they've turned them into, money making tribunals, right? Revenue generators. And the taxes, same thing. Like they're gonna go, well, the state constitution says this, and the 16th Amendment says that, and the 16th Amendment says the states are taxpayers, not the people.
Yep.
Never. The 16th Amendment has nothing to do with the people, and I think people need to realize that. Like, read the 16th Amendment and stop saying I have to pay taxes because the 16th Amendment. And the states, they can only tax inside federal areas or anything in the commercial capacity. If they're taxing your labor and your time, okay, that's illegal. They can't tax your labor and your time. Okay, that is a form of involuntary servitude, which is prohibited by the 13th Amendment.
Yep. Yep. They love that stuff, don't they?
Oh yeah. And they'll come up with they got all kinds of great excuses. See, this is the thing. Like, I think people don't realize that someone could be psychotic and make a very rational argument right? While being psychotic. Okay, so it's real simple. You have like the guys, like if you've ever been in New York City, right? Because I'm gonna say New York City because that's where I grew up. The crazy people on the train, right? They
Yep.
stop real bad. Everyone stays like 80 feet away from them, and then all of a sudden they start screaming all kinds of weird nonsense. Those are like the outward dramatizing psychotics, right? You know they're crazy, so you stay away from them, right? But then you have these people whose all their mental computations are they're computing psychosis. And basically, it's all like their computations are how do I harm others? How do I hurt other people? Serial killers are like that, right? Serial killers have that kind of mental
I mean,
computation.
we literally saw that in that law-abiding citizen movie.
I never saw that.
Oh, you need to watch it. It's a great movie.
There's so many movies I've never watched. It's kind of sad. I watched Back to the Future, Terminator, and the Star Wars films,
My man.
and the Marvel films. That's it. That's all. That's all I've ever really watched.
But yeah,
Uh,
these crazy people, if they say it just right, the courts will jump on it and go with it. They're like, oh, yeah, we love this. Well, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
yeah. So, but the whole thing is that it's just generating revenue, and they don't really care, and it's 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 destroying the people through this judicial activism. It's just a mess. Can some citizens? Well, you have to update your status if you're naturalized as a U.S. citizen. You have to update your standing as what is it, federal or is it state citizenship? If you're under, you have to update that to be state citizenship, right? The passport calls it national, and then you just update the IRS with that information, and it's the same thing. All right, but you just have to. It's the same process if you've naturalized or if you were born an American. So it doesn't change. The only thing that changes is just that one little stipulation that when you agreed to become a U.S. citizen, that you were agreeing to become a U.S. citizen recognized solely by state citizenship and not federal citizenship. That's about the only difference. All right. What else is going on here today? Oh yeah, good morning. All right, he's ready to learn. Buffalo chicken sounds delicious. You do not lose Social Security when you do the revocation of election. Hey, Eileen, good to see you. So you don't lose Social Security. In fact, what I found out is that when you do the ROE, they stop taxing your Social Security checks. Isn't that cool? I thought that was nice. So, all right, where else can we go today? By the way, if anyone is on the TikTok live and has a way to share the YouTube link, can you please share the YouTube link for people who want to come over to YouTube and watch it on YouTube? I mean, right now there's nothing pulled up on the screen, but in case we do, so other people can see it. What's this? I'm really quiet. I'm very shy. I could turn my sound up a little bit. How's that? Is that better? If that's the problem, you can unmute and just say I'm being quiet. But yeah, all right. Yeah, that is cool. It's very cool. So, finding that out, I was like, because it was obviously not me. I'm not collecting Social Security, right? I don't. I'm not. I don't qualify yet. I'm a little too young. But yeah, a couple of people reported back to me saying that after they did the ROE, their Social Security checks were a bit fatter, and they realized that there was no more withholdings. So, oh, interesting. Does the word employee mean state or federal worker? It means both, state or federal. So that's under 26 U.S. Code 3401. All right, and the definition of employee for the W-4 means federal or state employee. That's it. Or an officer of a corporation. That would be like a CEO, a CFO, a COO, or something like that. All right, those are the officers of a corporation. So if you work for like a company, like a corporation, like Walmart, and you're like, oh, but I'm like one of the cashiers. You're not an officer, All right, keep that side because I've had a few people go, I work for a corporation and I have to pay tax. I'm like, no. Are you an officer? What's your job title? They're like, oh, no, yeah, I don't work like in corporate. Yeah, those are the officers they're talking about. Right? Yeah, your job title will actually have to be officer, right? Police officer, right? You know, CEO is that corporate, no, I forget. Corporate officer. Those corporate officers. Chief executive officer. I don't know why I had corporate in my head. All right, chief executive officer, chief financial officer, chief organizing officer, organization officer, whatever. There's a bunch of them. You don't qualify unless you do. If you qualify, that's a different story. You'd have to pay taxes. If you're part of an S corp, you'd have to pay taxes because the S corps they're pass-through entities, so they don't pay any taxes, but the people do. Those officers. See what I mean? Those are the officers, right? I hope that makes more sense now. Does that clear that up? That like it's when they talk about officers, they're talking about like S corps and all the people like on the board, because those people are considered officers. And that's it. That's all it applies to. It doesn't apply to any man or woman that's working a 9 to 5 job, like like Joseph over here or anyone else. You know, sole proprietor of business. Well, the sole proprietor has to pay taxes, right? But uh, if if your sole proprietor is not, let's say, isn't making a profit, then yeah, it's not going to pay taxes. And it's really easy to do that. Okay, a sole proprietor, it means that you're operating your name as a business. That's the easiest thing ever. Okay, so the sole proprietor, everything you buy, and then if you have an assumed name certificate, everything you buy, right, is a write off for the business because it's all for business purposes, because it's the name that's buying it, right? It's all for business, and it's a write off. You would never have to pay taxes. You might have to still file because you're still operating the entity without doing the status correction and the ROE, but once you do those things, your sole proprietor is considered tax exempt too because you're the sole proprietor and you don't have to pay taxes. So if you do the sole proprietor, Joe, would that still make you liable for the legal name? Well, it when you do the assumed name, it's more like you've separated yourself from the legal entity. So the what that does is it doesn't make you liable as if you were the entity, but kind of like a limited liability corporation, right? Like there's some liability that thing has to do something, but it doesn't fall onto you. Okay, that's why you have to operate in trust. Okay, it's really really important that people operate in trust because if you operate in trust, your sole proprietor could get attacked, right? And then it would have to do things. And yes, it does offer you a layer of protection, so that way whatever they're coming after, they go after that thing. But you got to still keep all your stuff in the name of something else, in a trust name, right? So that way, when they come after the sole proprietor, right, they can't grab all the stuff that's in your name because you don't have anything in your name. That is true power right there, okay? Because if they're like Joseph's situation here, if all those funds were in a trust, they would have to have a whole other thing going on with the courts and trying to get jurisdiction over the trust in order to take those funds out of there. Okay, they wouldn't be able to touch it except because it's in an individual account. They're able to take the funds right out, right? Screw him, because he's our property anyway. So we do what we want, right? That's how they treated him, as if he was just like a little cash cow for them when they felt like they wanted his money. All right. Um, yeah, you are the agent. You're always the agent. Yeah, you're welcome. Let me check up. I gotta keep my eye on YouTube here as well. Yeah. What about managing a managing member of an LLC? No, he's a managing LLC is a little different than an S corp. So the S corps pass through. The LLCs do pay taxes on a 1065, right? But the S corps pay nothing. So that's why the officers of corporations have to pay taxes. In fact, let me pull this up and show you guys. Let's go here. I want to do this so I can keep watching the YouTube. Can't believe, Robert, you're on YouTube and you're not here with us? I don't know. I'm not judging. All right, so let's see what happened here. We're going to go here. Um, all right, so this is what we got here. We have Title 26, 3401. And the reason why we use this one for this is because of, hold on, let me do this. Okay, that's much better. Why does it keep doing that? It's so annoying. All right. And I'm going to show you why, because if we look at 3402, it says income tax collected at source. Well, that sounds like a W-4 to me, right? And that's what it is. The W-4 comes from there. I've had conversations with the IRS about it in letters and stuff like that. A few people know. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. So wages, all remuneration, other than fees paid to a public official for services performed by an employee for his employer, right? Including the cash value of all remuneration, right? And any medium other than cash. I remember I used to work a job and I got paid in cash. There was no, there was no even question about paying taxes because it was cash. All right. That's why they don't like it when people get paid in cash. Oh, you can't do that. What does it mean you can't do that? You can do that. Anyway, let's go down. We're going to look at the definition of employee. Employee. The term employee includes an officer, employee, or elected official of the United States, a state, or any political subdivision thereof, or the District of Columbia, or any agency or instrumentality of any one or the more of the foregoing. The term employee also includes an officer of a corporation. So, like an S corp has officers, CEOs, CFOs, right? Same thing. Yeah, you do have to change your status to get out of paying taxes. You can't just go screw you because they will come knocking on your door and bugging you until you do the status correction. So, but the status correction is for the taxes. That's what it's for. Okay. Um, it doesn't handle traffic stuff. It's supposed to, but it doesn't because the whole traffic thing is a whole other wild thing of issues with judicial injustice and stuff. It's a big mess. But we're going to talk about this officer of a corporation, and what they're talking about here is those pass-through companies like S corp or C corps, right? Yeah, it's overreach, 100%. Yeah. So, but these guys, this is not like you working at, like McDonald's or something, or whatever, or Walmart or one of these companies, not even at a bank. Okay. An officer is those really the board. And the reason why is because since they're pass-through entities, here, let's go to IRS website, everyone's favorite website. And we're going to go to S Corp. And we're going to go look at the stuff for the S. Really? Nothing about S Corps? Why do I not believe that? You gotta be. This is make believe here.
That's hilarious.
How do they not have anything for S Corps?
I don't know. That's hilarious.
What in the freaking world? S Corporation. Okay, here we go. All right. So here, S corporations are corporations that elect to pass corporate income, losses, deductions, and credits through to their shareholders for federal tax purposes. Shareholders of S corporations report the flow through of income and losses on their personal tax returns and are assessed taxed at their individual income tax rates. This allows S corporations to avoid double taxation on the corporate income. S corporations are responsible for tax on certain built-in gains and passive income at the entity level. Okay. So for this, right, if you are an S corporation, you may be liable for income tax, then you have to use these forms, employment taxes, these things, right? Chart 2, income tax. If you're an S corporation shareholder, you have to pay income tax. Okay. So I can't believe they did that at first. All right. But there you go. So here's the other catch. The shareholders uh, may be individuals, certain trusts and estates may not be partnerships, corporations, or non-resident alien shareholders. And the reason why they don't want non-resident alien shareholders is because the non-resident aliens don't pay taxes. Okay. And that is the status correction right there, is becoming a non-resident alien. So if you become a non-resident alien, you can't actually be part of the S corp, but your trust can be. You can get a trust and make the trust a shareholder. Now the trust would have to pay certain taxes unless it breaks down and divvies out payments to other entities that aren't part of that, and they can show that on its taxes and reduce its tax liability. Okay. And this is what a lot of those guys do, those really wealthy guys. Do you think that they're just biting the bullet and eating up these taxes every year, like paying out these taxes? No way. They're not doing it. What they're doing is they're putting all these funds into trusts and then pushing it out into other entities and making it look like, oh, I paid these guys, oh, I paid this, oh, I paid this, and it reduces their tax. But it's all money to themselves through other entities. So that way they pay $0 in taxes. All right. It's really, really clever. There you go. Did the W-4, I-9, and W-8BEN to change my wife's taxes. Yeah, that works. Okay. That stuff will work. All right. But by the way, just so you know, if you do the W-8BEN and do not do the status correction, they will come bugging you. If you do W-4, right, as exempt, and you don't do the status correction, they will come bug you. Not everybody, but they will come bug you because you're still going to be filing. They're going to say you owe us money. So you have to do the status correction along with those forms. Okay. So keep that in mind. That's important. I did do a course on that. You could find it in my Linktree link on, let me see. I'll just pull it up on here. Let's see. Linktree. This is my Linktree. I'll share it in YouTube for everyone in YouTube. But I have a whole class just on how to do the forms after. It's called Tax Forms Comprehension. Okay. And then I also have music on there if you want to listen to some music. And of course, the trust membership. All right. I welcome you guys to join. How do you do the status correction? Okay. So that's a great question. So the status correction is basically rebutting the presumption that you are a U.S. citizen under the 14th Amendment. So you could be a citizen of the United States of America and not be a citizen of the United States. That's a fundamental difference between the two. One is the fact that under the 14th Amendment, federal citizenship means that you would be considered a citizen of the District of Columbia. Okay. And I mean, I'm not a citizen of the District of Columbia, you know, but let's see. This is the Constitution here. We'll bring that up. 14. All right, 14th Amendment. All persons. Now that's the first catch right there. It says all persons. Okay, and we could break this first thing down into little pieces. All persons. Now the definition of persons here does not mean man or woman. Hey, good morning. Hello. Okay, and that's an important thing to understand. The definition of persons here is in Black Law's Dictionary, and it tells you, this is from a court case where they determined that persons means corporation as it's used in the first clause of the 14th Amendment. So I'm going to pull that up and show you guys so everyone knows what we're really looking at here. All right, so person. Oh, I just had it. Perfect. All right, so let's go back to there. Got a lot of people on the Zoom meeting this morning. Everyone want to say hello? You guys shy today?
You know I'm not shy. I always will say hello.
All right, so this is from Black Law's 4th edition, and we're looking at the definition of person. Now, I'm going to point out that it does state that a person is a man, but it's a man considered according to the rank he holds in society. Now, that right there tells you that this definition of person does not exist within the republic, because there are no ranks in society in a republic. Everyone's the king or queen. And we tell people we're in charge. We're the kings and queens. That's the rank. That's it. There is no other rank. Okay. When you start working for the government, you actually submit yourself to the people. So we know right there from that one portion of the sentence, that first, it's not even a full sentence, um, that they're not talking about a republic, because this has nothing to do with a republic. What ranks? What ranks are he talking about? There's ranks in society. You see what I mean? All right. With all the right to which the place he holds entitles him and the duties which it imposes. So they're talking about really a position, a job position, right? It's not about, your rank in society, because as men and women, there is no rank. We're all equal. Okay. But that tells you right there that this is not a republic that they're operating off of right there. Okay. But let's look at this. So we're going to go down and it shows right here. Corporations are persons, as that word is used in the first clause of the XIV Amendment. That's 14, by the way. Okay. And that's what it says. Corporations are persons. Okay. As that word is used in the first clause of the 14th Amendment. We're going to look at that first clause again. 14th Amendment. So all persons. It's the first clause, isn't it? So that's corporations. That's what we're talking about. This is why you want to do the assumed name. This is why we do the status correction, right, with the passport. Okay, because you're correcting the status. You're correcting the standing. And the passport does recognize the assumed name, right, or DBA. It does recognize that. So you can utilize the assumed name in your passport. All persons born or naturalized in the United States, which United States? There's 3 of them. Which one are they talking about? And subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And here's another catch. So you could be born in the United States and not be subject to the jurisdiction. Oh. So that's another whole other thing going on here. Have you submitted yourself to the jurisdiction of the United States government? I don't know. Maybe. Right? It's not it's not solidified that you have. We don't know. Right? That's up to you to look over your contracts and establish whether or not you did. All right, but all persons born and naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. So look what they've done here is they've taken state citizenship and they've taken it from being the peak of society and power and the authority from which everything derives from, and reduced it down to a residency. Okay, this is a complete reversal of the truth about our 14th Amendment. Okay, the 14th Amendment flipped the script on because state citizenship it's the zenith of authority. Okay, all power derives from the people. The people submit or delegate authority over to the state government. The state government delegates authority over to the United States. So the federal government gets its power from the states. The states get its power from the people. But what this 14th Amendment does is it flips it and makes the state citizenship residency, and residents are lower, and that this is all the ranking stuff that they're talking about. This is about persons and person, right? Persons, right? So why wouldn't they say all people? Because they can't, because the people can't be subservient to the federal or state governments, right? But these persons can be. Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about the 14th Amendment was created to make a new class of citizen, right? But what it does is not only does it make a federal citizenship, and now what it does is permeate into the states, right? Federalism permeates into the states, but it creates a resident. Because why? If you're a citizen of the United States, right, that means that you reside you would live in DC, or you're from DC. That's your home, right? Or that's your homeland would be District of Columbia, and you're going to leave the District of Columbia to go reside somewhere else, because residency is about being away from home to do a job. Okay, it's a job away from home. Let's see. Let's go to Merriam. Webster Dictionary, I'll show you. Resident. All right. Resident. Living in a place for some length of time. Serving in a regular or full-time capacity. Okay. One who resides in a place. Okay. Whatever. All right. But you see, it's not about is living in a place for some length of time. It's not your home. Resident, when people ask you if you're a resident and you say yes, you have plans on leaving? Is there like an actual home? Where do you do the status correction? You do it at the post office. You go get a passport. On my Rumble channel, I actually have the full breakdown of how to do it with the passport application, how to fill it out, how to write your explanatory statement. It's all on there. I break down all the different principles about it, how to do everything. So the status correction is on my Rumble channel in full, which you could watch it there, but I'm just giving some more information about it. But all this would be part of your explanatory statement, understanding what a resident is, understanding what a state citizen is, right? How they use the term national in order to hide state citizenship, right? Residence about a job, the resident engineer for a highway department, right? You have a job, right? Because what is it? Your U.S. person, right, is a business, right? It's a business and you're acting as that business. This is why you have to do the assumed name certificate. I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to do anything. The stars don't mean, no one knows what the stars mean. Anyone who tells you what the stars mean is full of shit. Don't listen to them. If they're insistent, well, you have to have this many stars on your passport, fuck them. Don't listen to them anymore. I'm just being real. If people show me all kinds of stuff and I go, where's that from? And they go, well, I mean, you can't back it up. No one's been able to back it up. And I've shown over and over again that the information for what the passport stars mean on the passport card is confidential and you can't read it. So nobody can make a claim to what it actually says. Can someone share my Rumble link in TikTok for me, please? Yes, thank you. Michelle just shared it. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's one word. My name is one word. But if you go to my profile link, the Linktree link will also you'll be able to find the Rumble channel that way. I just had a data because a bunch of people told me that the Linktree link was all kinds of, like the colors they were the same, the words in the background. So I updated it so that way it could be seen a little bit better. But thank you for sharing that. But yeah, serving in a regular full-time capacity. This definition isn't that good though. Let's see, word history. No, it's not that. We got to find a better one. Let's try a different dictionary. What's another one? What's a better one? Let's do American Heritage Dictionary. Let's see if that one has a better one. All right. And we'll do resident. One who resides in a particular place permanently for extended period of time as a diplomat, official residing in a foreign seat of government, a colonial officer acting as an advisor, right, to the ruler who protect the state off of having quasi-gubernatorial powers, a member of an intelligence gathering, a non-uniformed law enforcement agency who resides overseas, right, or one lives in a dormitory, a physician receiving specialized clinical training in hospital, usually after completing an internship, a non-immigrant or a bird or animal. Huh?
Teaspoon.
Teaspoon.
And service.
I don't think they don't realize they're. I'm gonna mute her.
Yeah, you'll have to mute him.
I muted her. All right. Anyway, dwelling in a particular place, right? Residing, resident aliens, and that is it. A resident is a resident alien. Living somewhere in connection with duty or work. See what I mean? Like, who is anyone? This is just the regular English. This is not a legal definition. This is just the American English definition. Where is it say, like dwelling in a particular place, residing, and it talks about resident aliens, non-immigratory, right? Inherently present, filing a particular role in a group or organization, right? Living somewhere in connection with duty or work. Everyone assumes the regular English definition means that this is where your home is, and it doesn't mean that at all. Okay? Never
Yeah,
has.
yeah, that's the part that really befuddled me the most as a retired postmaster, that I kept insisting that they were a resident. They were a resident.
Uh, I guess they are. Where's their home? That's not
Well,
their home.
technically, if they agree that they're a resident, then they're part of the Washington D.C. But if you don't agree to it, that
Right. Well, think about it. If you even on your mortgage agreement, it says that you're a resident, right? It says, oh, you're going to be residing there. So what are you saying? This is why you're paying property taxes because you're a resident, meaning you're renting the place out, right? You're a tenant and a resident. Congratulations. They got you as a tenant, and so you have to pay property taxes, and a resident because it's not your home. It's someone else's home. And you're just there residing until it's time for you to go back to your home.
this is why I say you need to teach a contract class, because we need to understand, comprehend the words that trip us up, that trap us, so that we can mark through them and say, not a resident. That's the terms that we need to get embedded in our brains.
What is a postmaster? A postmaster is the highest office in a post office. I think in some areas there's a postmaster over like a bunch of post offices, and sometimes it's just one.
Yeah, the bunch of post offices are called RMPOs, and they have a head out office for the postmasters in charge of those remotely manned post offices. And then in the bigger cities, they have stations. And so they have station managers, but they still, like in greater Kansas City area, the postmaster of the greater Kansas City area is the postmaster of Shawnee Mission. And he is the one in charge of all the stations around the greater Kansas City area.
And how long were you a postmaster for?
17 and a half years.
17 and a half years. So, and well, we won't on TikTok. You go by on Kansas soil, right? So we'll stick with that. But yeah, so some good information there. Thank you. All right, so let's see some comments in live. Oh, TikTok is filtering the comments, people. So don't get upset if I didn't see your comment because they just won't show it to me. Yeah, I was gonna say Eric Clem just made a good point, and I was gonna say that yeah, doing innovation with your contracts, okay, is a huge uh, uh, power push on your end. And the novation is basically you're just updating or you're creating a contract, you're modifying the contract by definitions. So if you come in and say, hey, we can do this contract as written, no problem. But you have to accept my novation. And the novation would have you can resident, meaning that the homeowner and his a place of abode, right? Without dwelling in a particular place or living in connection with some duty or organization. And you would erase those from the you would erase that from the definition, right? Tenant means homeowner with exclusive legal and equitable rights to this property. Oh, so you can accept the term tenant on their paperwork, but if only the only definition applies is yours because any of those contracts have definitions. Sometimes they do, but you say we're gonna bypass those definitions for these, and these are the definitions that are going to be accepted for this contract. That I love that idea. I was about to say it too, and he typed it in. I was like, oh man, great idea. So I was actually thinking about writing a novation, but I think the contract class is a great idea, and we could do that, and then do the novation with the contracts. Domicile is kind of similar to residency. It's a little different, right? Domicile is more permanent, and you can use the term domicile. But we're talking about when you're in contracts, they won't use the term domicile, they'll use residence. And you want to define it, you want to modify those definitions. Citizen, Oh, you're a citizen. Yes, citizen of the state, right? Citizen in this category would mean one of the people of the state who the state derives its authority from, right? That would be a good definition for citizen if it's in your paperwork, right? So that way, whenever they use the term citizen in any of their paperwork, they're referring to you as one of the people whom the state and federal government derives its authority from. So every time they use that word, you're in power. All right. Oh, thank you. Yeah, yeah. All right. I was gonna. How do we hold the post office accountable? I mean, I don't know. It depends on the situation. You know.
Yeah, I was gonna say in what way, because there's rules and regulations and the DMM and the postmaster will say, well, I'm just following the domestic mail manual and what my bosses tell me.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, you're editing the contract to meet your needs. Exactly. That's exactly what we're doing, right? And it's a great way to do it. Here, let's look up novation. Let's see. Novation. All right. Law. The substitution of a new contract for a previous contract, or the substitution of a new party for previous party in contract. So the previous obligation is considered discharged, or the previous obligor released. Okay, that's the definition of novation. And what we're doing with our novation is we're just updating the terms so that way, I mean, the contract fundamentally changes. It does. On from the outlook, not one word in the contract needs to change. It's all the definitions of the contract that changes, meaning that the inherent understanding and agreement of that contract is fundamentally different now, right? Like if we said, hey, let's use the word. Everyone did this as kids, right? When you were kids, it's like you and your friends would come up with like a secret code, and you're like, hey, every time we say chair, that means duck. Like watch out, and you go chair, right? Or whatever, something like that, right? We all had those things, and my brother and I, we still do that. There's stuff from when we were kids that we would say. Now we're like talking like this, and people are like, what are you guys talking about? Nobody knows. It's just this language just between the two of us. It's kind of funny, I'm sure everyone had something like that, right? So that's what the novation is. It's like this little private, language between you and these guys. That would be a true meeting of the minds. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you nailed it. All right, so I think one thing I'm going to point out that we just learned is do not assume what these words mean, okay? Not even in the regular English, okay? I got to do this puzzle piece. Okay, good. All right, so the regular English definitions are misunderstood. The legal definitions are conniving, okay, and covert. All right, I think we've learned that one already. But even just with these regular English definitions, like don't take them for granted, people. Look up the regular words too. All right, whenever you're getting involved in any of these contracts with the state, with the banks, or the federal government, look up the words in the law dictionaries, and if it's not defined in there, then go to the regular English dictionaries and go look up what they mean there. Okay, because what you're going to find out is that sometimes these words don't mean what you think they mean. Okay. They stopped delivering mail without warning or notice. Without warning or notice. Yeah, I would just go down there and ask them why. Just find out what's going on. Maybe you made somebody mad or something. I don't know. You got to go down there and just say, hey, we stopped getting mail. But if they stop delivering mail after you did a process, then they might not consider you a resident anymore, and they don't consider you within their jurisdiction to send mail to. So it could be a good thing. All right, they say, oh, that's out of our jurisdiction. We don't send mail to that place. So they don't bring mail there because you're not in their jurisdiction. That could be it. So,
Well, the other thing is sometimes people won't pick up their mail until the mailbox gets full, and then we put a date on one of the pieces of mail, and after it hadn't been picked up for 10, 15 days, we bring it back in and put them down as move left no address.
yeah. But I would just say, just go down there and find out whether they're not sending mail to your house. Just go ask them. Because unless you're psychic, but I would just go and ask because I wouldn't know. I'm not psychic. Maybe I am, and I don't want to show off my powers.
Well, sometimes also, if we had a vicious dog in the area, we would send out letters to the block of the neighborhood for a vicious dog and stop mail delivery. But I was dog bit 3 times as a letter carrier.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. If you got a mean dog, yeah, I wouldn't want to. I understand. Yeah. Yeah, that was like every kid knew that. Like the post op, the postal carrier and the dogs, they were like bitter enemies, you know. No dogs. All right. So yeah, just go find out. Yeah, I don't know. And then once you find out what it is, go ahead. You can tell me what it is. We can look for a remedy for that. All right. But good news is that if you can't receive mail at your house, you're not a resident. Yeah, yeah, it's amazing how much actual communication will fix things. It's true. Yeah, just go down and, hi, I'm not getting mail in my house. Oh, yeah, there's a mistake here. Sorry about that. Who knows? Oh, yeah, the letter carrier, he got real mad at you. He doesn't want to come to your house. Well, all right. Well, do you have free PO boxes then, or can we do general delivery or something? And I'll just come pick up my mail here. Um, General delivery is a good solution.
General delivery form PS 1527.
Form PS 1527. Let's see. All right. Application for general delivery service. There it is. Just go down there and go ask for it. It's a pretty simple it's a pretty simple form. Price. What is that? That's that's that is a mill. And what's this? What would this be called? I,
That's the cost from the MDC for the postmaster to order the article into the office.
that's like nothing. It's not even a cent yet. I mean, I guess it would be 1 cent if you were to round it off. It would go to 1 cent, but it's
Yeah,
not
that
even.
yeah,
It's not
that way the postmaster knows how much it's hitting his budget to get those forms in his office.
okay. Wow, not even a penny. All right, so it's form 1527. PS form 1527. All right. I mean, you should find before you try to look for remedies, find out why it's happened. You can't get a remedy without a why. So you have to know the reason first. Once you find out the why, then you can come up with a way to fix it. All right. Until then, there is no remedy. All right. So keep that. Oh, by the way, guys, that's an important thing to realize. Um, there is no remedy without a why. You need to know why something is happening in order to get a remedy. Like the taxes. Like people don't want to pay taxes. Well, why is there taxes in the first place? Well, the 16th Amendment is one of the reasons why. But why did they create the 16th Amendment? They did it because they wanted to win court cases when people kept winning court cases on income tax, right? So what did they do? They created an amendment to the Constitution so that way they can crush people with the judicial system on taxes because people were winning on. They're like, oh, we're going to sue you for not paying taxes, and people are like, I don't have to pay taxes. There's no constitutional provision that says I have to. And Taft was like, no, we got to. Taft, the president of the United States, said we need to win these court cases against the people because these people keep beating us in the courts. And so he pushed Congress to create the 16th Amendment, and they did. And the whole why for the 16th Amendment is to win court cases. You see how they used the judicial system and the legislative side in order to crush the people? They're working hand in hand. So the executive side pushed the legislative, right, to enact something that would make the judicial rule on the side of the executive branch. It's such a twisted, messed up thing. In fact, let me see. I'm going to go find that real quick. I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about. Let's do this.
So while you're looking for that, Joe, I wanted to apologize for the little poster thing that I had a bleep in. you were talking about something on class, and it was about when they confiscated the gold, and you talked about the men and women turned it in, and I said, but the poster said all persons, and you went back to your document that you were writing on, and you thought that I was referring to that. No, I was just referring to the poster that the postmasters had to put up in the post office during the confiscation. It said all persons.
All right, I don't know. I don't really care about that. But I'm gonna show you guys how I'm gonna do this. All right, I'm gonna show you guys right now. This is how to find stuff really fast. I actually just use my own Rumble channel to do it. So I type in my name as one word, and then I'm gonna type in revocation of election because I wrote it. It's in one of the revocation videos. Revocation of election, and I think it was part 2. It's part 2. And there it is. See how fast? This is how I pull stuff up so quick. Because I link everything in my Rumble videos. And then you can go there if you know which video it's in. I know, right? Because I made them. But I don't always remember the names of the videos, but this one I do. But this is it. All right. So I actually use my own Rumble channel as a resource to pull up stuff really quick. That's how I can pull some stuff up really fast sometimes. So don't think I have some kind of magic voodoo trick or something. No, it's just the fact that where was it? Opposing to the states and then 1909. Okay, see, and then 1909. Oh, what was the page number on that? Damn, don't see that. Amendment to the Constitution. In addition, oh, come on. That's what you got to do. You have to pay your taxes. Well, it should be ultimately reversed. If it should ultimately reverse. It says 20 and 52, 45, 14. Okay. I'm just trying to get to the, because there's a lot on this page, but here, let's see. Oh, we can search on there. If we can search on there, that'd be great. All right. Yeah, there you go. There's Taft, and then again. Yeah, in here, this is the congressional record where he urged the people to come up with a tax scheme against the people. Right? Within the last 2 months, the American Sugar Trust has paid into Treasury of the United States some $2 or $3 million stolen, deliberately stolen from the Treasury, from the people, from the taxpayers of this country, stolen by falsifying its weights, a crime that belongs to the Dark Ages. Okay, whatever. We should. Okay, that's all the sugar crap. Amendment. How come I can't see any of this stuff? Okay. Sometimes it's hard to find. I don't want to have to sit here and read all day long just to find that little thing. It's in that video though. Yeah, whatever. No, there's all other stuff. But yeah, it's in this congressional record. Yeah, the word key means indefinite description of property. Wow. All right. Anyway, where are we going to go from here? So that's the reason. So remember the why. If we find out that the reason why they were taxing everybody was because they wanted to win court cases, now we can rebut that presumption. Like, hey, I have no interest in going in court. I'm not. But the taxes only apply under the 14th Amendment citizenship. Okay, and that's because it's a job and it's a commerce clause. All right. So yeah, he was a traitor. That guy was a scumbag. Some of these presidents were really bad people and nobody has any clue. Woodrow Wilson actually issued an apology for getting the Federal Reserve Act passed, by the way, before he died. He said he screwed up the country really bad and he regrets it. powers that be told him that if he passed that act, they would let him become president. So he said he agreed to passing the act, the Federal Reserve Act of 1913. And from doing that, what happened was, of course, so by the way, I'll just show you guys, I'm going to break this down how this works. So before the Federal Reserve Act, you could take your gold and silver, go to the bank and put it and deposit into the bank. And the bank would issue you banknotes, their own bank. Like if it was Wachovia Bank or Wells Fargo or whatever bank, right? They would issue their own notes to you saying that you had this much of gold or silver. So either gold notes or silver notes. And that's what they did. Now, what was happening was that they actually brought that up in there a little bit. We're talking about how like some of these guys were like putting other metals into the gold to make it weigh a certain amount and then passing it off as having the value. This was part of the problem, was that people were kind of reducing the value of gold. They were reducing the value of silver by mixing it with other metals and stuff like that. And that was a problem, but also the counterfeiting of the notes. So people would go and take the banknotes and then counterfeit them and then print them out. And, the banks were doing the same thing. They would make more notes than there were and then start, hand them out, and they were valid notes. So they'd have to give the gold over in that case. But remember, people were taking those notes and trading them with other people for goods and services. So, I got this $10 gold note. I tell you what, you work for me for 2 weeks, I'll give you the $10 gold note. And they go, okay, yeah. Because that was good money, right? Back then, $10 of gold, I'll take it, right? And then they give them that. Yeah, it was easier to carry that pieces of paper. But because of all these problems and the banks were failing because of all this stuff, what they did, yeah, right, they give you cheap liquor in fancy bottles. Yeah, that's right. Oh, here's a really fancy bottle and it's like cheap liquor. But so what they did with the Federal Reserve Act was, the idea behind the Federal Reserve Act was to make only one bank, the one that could print all the gold and silver notes for the country. So that way they had better control over the validity of the notes. So that was what they did. And of course, that's why they're called Federal Reserve notes to this day, because of the fact that the Federal Reserve printed them, right? I got a $50 bill right here, Federal Reserve note, because before this, you had Bank of America notes, Wachovia notes, Wells Fargo notes, right? Whatever other banks were around. I know some of those banks were around back then. I think Wachovia is gone actually, but those banks had their own notes. The Federal Reserve Act banned all those other banks from making their own notes, so those banks had to use Federal Reserve notes instead, and that's what they were utilizing. Okay, and then the United States issued silver certificates and gold certificates, right? So that you could redeem money right with the U.S. Treasury. And then, of course, 1933 came along and they banned all the gold, right? It was prohibited to have gold, and that was under Executive Order 6102. I'm going to pull it up. And this is it. I don't think I'm going to make a video about this formally for Rumble, but I'm going to show you guys this right here. April 5th, 1933. Okay, I'm going to blow this up, make it easier for people to read. By virtue of the authority vested in me by Section 5B of the Act of October 6, 1917, Trading with the Enemy Act. That's what act he's using, people. The Trading with the Enemy Act. Okay, so keep that in mind. This is martial law that he's using right here. We're looking at it. By virtue of the authority vested in me in Section 5B of the Act of October 6, 1917. All right, and if you don't believe me, let's do this. Let's just copy that. We're going to open it up in a brand new thing, and we're going to go find out what that is. And there it is. The Trading with the Enemy Act. See, I'm not going to lead you guys astray, okay? I'm cutting you guys the straight truth, okay? As amended by Section 2 of the Act of March 9, 1933, entitled An Act to Provide Relief in the Existing National Emergency in Banking and for Other Purposes, in which a mandatory act Congress declared that a serious emergency exists, I, Franklin D. Roosevelt, President of the United States of America, do declare that said national emergency still continues to exist, and pursuant to said section, do hereby prohibit the hoarding of gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates within the continental United States by individuals, partnerships, associations, and corporations, and hereby prescribe the following regulations for carrying out the purposes of this order. Section 1. For purposes of this regulation, the term hoarding means the withdrawal and withholding of gold coin, gold bullion, or gold certificates from the recognized and customary channels of trade. The term person means any individual, partnership, association, or corporation. See what he's doing? He's using that. We're gonna define what person means here. We're gonna make these definitions. All right. So, Section 2, all persons are hereby required to deliver on or before May 1st, 1933, to a Federal Reserve Bank or branch or agency thereof, or to any member bank or of the Federal Reserve System, all gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates now owned by them or coming into their ownership on or before April 28th, 1933. All right, so this, it could, the individual could mean a man or woman, but it could also mean, or it could also be a corporation or artificial entity. So, because remember, an individual's sole proprietorship and a sole proprietor is not a man or woman. It's still it's a legal entity. So it could mean, but not necessarily, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to make that argument on that one. I'm not going to definitively say that it doesn't apply to living men and women, but we can agree or disagree on that point. It's fine. IRS definition is a natural person. Yeah, well, that's not this is pre-IRS stuff. This is 1933. Well, yeah, no, there was IRS stuff going on already. All right. Any such amount of gold may be required for legitimate and customary use in industry, profession, or art within a reasonable time, including gold prior to refining stocks of gold in reasonable amounts for the usual trade requirements of owners mining and refining such gold. So he's making exceptions for like refineries and art and stuff like that. Gold coin and gold certificates, an amount not exceeding in the aggregate of $100 belonging to any one person, and gold coins having a recognized special value to collectors of rare and unusual coins. So he's making exceptions for like rare coins, unusual coins. If people are collectors of those things, right? He's making exceptions to that. Yeah, birds of a feather. Yeah, good point. Gold bullion. Right, these are the exceptions, right? So you can't have more than $100, right? If it's less than $100, you're okay. If you're a collector of rare, unusual coins, it's okay. But if you're using this for money, no, give it to me. I want it. I want your gold. All right. You ever watch the DuckTales movie? The guy who like lived 200 years because he was obsessed with gold. That's what this sounds like right here. Sounds like that guy. The gold coin and bullion earmarked or held in trust for a recognized foreign government or foreign central bank or banks or international settlements. Oh, so the foreigners. Oh, you're not part of America. Keep your gold. It's okay. Oh, it's for a foreign government. That's fine. We don't want our American people to have the gold, but a foreign government or foreign central bank, that's okay. We'll allow that. Scumbag. Gold coin and bullion licensed for other proper transactions, not involving hoarding, including gold coin and bullion imported for export or held pending action on application for export licenses. Okay, these are all the BS exceptions. By the way, this is where HJR 192 is born out of. It comes from this. This happened first. The Public Law 73-10 came out in June of this year. So this was the big ambush here, was this thing, and then that solidified the deal later on. Okay, because then people are like, how the hell are we supposed to pay for things? Well, we could use whatever legal tender we have then. Okay, guys, just use whatever. Fine. Whatever's around, just use it. It's not a big deal. But you have to understand the why. Okay, this is the problem that people have when you're trying to enforce HR 192, is they don't understand the why. Okay, so and thus there's no remedy. All right, yeah, tap that screen. Okay, oh yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, section 3. Until otherwise ordered, any person becoming the owner of any gold bullion, or gold certificates after April 28th, 1933, shall, within 3 days after receipt thereof, deliver the same in such manner prescribed in section 2, unless those things are held for any of the purposes specified in paragraphs A, B, or C of section 2. Just so you guys know, I'm gonna make a full-on Rumble video, a timeline history of from the Constitution and the Article 1, Section 10 about the gold, or the gold and silver coin being used to pay debts, and all the things that Congress and the executive branch and judicial branch have done to to demonize and get rid of the gold and silver. Okay, I'm gonna do that. I've been putting it together. There's some things that happened actually in 1934, and there's some things that happened in right before the Federal Reserve Act, like 1911, 1908. There's stuff that happened then, and I'm putting it all together. We're gonna have it's gonna be probably a long video, but it's gonna probably be one of the most valuable videos I think I'll ever make on Rumble, because it's gonna lay out the entire timeline of everything that they did to destroy the gold and silver standard in America. Okay, every part of it. By the way, in the early 1900s, they actually went to Europe and got, this is how the central bankers got back into America, was through some stuff that happened in 1908. And they sent people out to go study what the Europeans were doing. And they came back and was like, we need a central bank. In 1913, they got one. Right. So yeah, there was a whole conspiracy on this stuff, man, for years to get this thing done. This is not just like a pretend thing, but once I lay it all out, you can send that video to anybody, because I won't talk about status correction or anything about that. It's just going to be purely on the financial system. So it'll be an appropriate video for anyone to watch. Matt, thank you. I really appreciate that. All right. So let's see. Section 4. Upon the receipt of gold coin, gold bullion, or gold certificates delivered to it in accordance with sections 2 or 3, the Federal Reserve Bank, oh, thank goodness, or member bank will pay therefore an equivalent amount of any other form of coin or currency coined or issued under the laws of the United States. Oh, isn't that sweet? They're going to go, and, if I was around back then, you know what I would have done? I would have drove up to everybody's house with Federal Reserve notes, as much Federal Reserve notes as I could get my hands on, right? And be like, I'm from the government. I'm here to get your gold. I would have done that, like, hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to get your gold. And people would have gave it to me, because, people would be that stupid to do it today, right? I think people were smarter back then. And they still did it. All right, so it tells you, how far we've fallen. I just get my best suit on, walk around, put my shades on, right? Government official, right? Now I look like government guy, right? Maybe shave a little bit or something, right? Yeah, they were smarter back then. They still went for it. I'd go in and be like, hi, I'm from the government. I'm here to take your gold. I have Federal Reserve notes to give you instead, right? Because this is part of our equivalent of any form of gold coin or coin or currency that's issued under the laws of the United States.
You might have a chance when they take us to the digital dollar.
There you go. I'll go around and get everyone's dollars. Say, yeah, the digital dollars will show up in your house later. Like, this is crazy. No digital dollars. Oh my God. Yeah, I would so do. Yeah, I know it's my idea. But, member banks shall deliver all gold coin, bullion, and gold certificates owned or received by them to the Federal Reserve banks of their respective districts and receive credit or payment therefor. So even the member banks had to turn in all the gold too. Well, the banks are a person, aren't they? So they can't have it either. And who owned the Federal Reserve Bank? So who's getting all that gold? All right, the Secretary of Treasury, out of the sum made available to the President by Section 501 of the Act of March 9, 1933, will, in all proper cases, pay the reasonable cost of transportation of gold coin, gold bullion, gold certificates delivered to a member bank or Federal Reserve Bank in accordance with Sections 2, 3, or 5 hereof, including the cost of insurance, protection, and other incidental costs. Okay, voucher forms for this purpose may be procured from Federal Reserve banks. Okay. Greedy, yeah, real greedy. Look at this, man. Secretary of Treasury is going to pay out all the money for this stuff, right? This is crazy. I mean, if the people back then were awake, they would have marched down to the White House and they would have had a barbecue out there that day. You know, this guy would have been like, you know, this guy would have been, he would have created the first wheelchair race. I mean, like this guy would have been like freaking, like trying to get away from everybody. If they knew what the hell was really going on and what these guys were trying to do, it wouldn't have gotten anywhere past this executive order. But the people have been asleep, man. People were sleeping. I mean, during this time, everyone was occupied about the depression, trying to eat and stuff like that. They didn't really care. They just wanted anything to make it go away. Right? And that's exactly what they do. They create a problem, right? And then they say, everyone gets upset about the problem. And then they go, well, we have a solution for that now. And here's our solution. We're going to take all the wealth away from the people. Oh, great. Yeah, let's do it. If stealing all our wealth is going to make us be able to eat again, yeah, please take it. So but if they didn't do this, there would have been a revolution and the government would have been overthrown. 100%. Right? But they're like, we got a situation, we're going to fix it. And everyone loved FDR. Everyone loved this guy because he said he was going to save the country from this Great Depression, and then he saved the country from this Great Depression, right? By utilizing the banks and saving the banks. Yeah, they should have brought their cannons down there and had a show. They should have rounded up all the bankers too and brought them down there to join in the party. Oh, we're just celebrating, we're filling up these cannons with fireworks. Smells like gunpowder. Well, you need it for fireworks, don't you? All right. But anyway, so, I mean, it's just crazy. Whoever willfully violates any provision of this executive order or any of these regulations or under any rule, regulation, or license issued thereunder may be fined not more than $10,000, or if a natural person may be imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. If you don't give us your gold, we're going to throw you in jail. And you're going to pay us $10,000 in our fake money now, too. So, we got you. Right? And any officer, director, or agent of any corporation knowingly participates in any such violation may be punished by a like fine, imprisonment, or both. That sounds like Home Depot is going to be selling out a rope real soon if people saw this. And if people understood what this was saying. Okay? Really. It's just unacceptable. How many people actually went to jail? That's a good question. I'd like to know how many people went to jail. How many people went to jail? Let's see if we can find that. How many people Let's see. This is Brave gives you this AI thing. It's not available. The exact number of people who are in prison for violating Executive Order 6102 is not available in the provided sources, while the order carried penalties up to 10 years. Historical accounts indicates that prosecutions were relatively rare. The government focused more on encouraging compliance through public messaging and legal challenges rather than mass incarceration. Some people did challenge the order's constitutionality in court, and while a few were indicted, the Supreme Court ultimately declined to hear one major case, effectively ending the legal challenge. Oh, what was that? I want to see that. The general consensus from historical analysis is that the threat of punishment was significant, but widespread imprisonment did not occur. So apparently some people went to jail, but not a lot. So, and that's how they did it. You know, they did that, you know, they were like, oh, just do it. Come on. Peer pressure. You know, that's what it sounds like. But this came from, what was this? This came from a Reddit post. Let's see. And then this guy says in the Reddit post that there was a case. So I don't even know how true that is because he's saying that the Supreme Court, it's just someone making that statement, but it's April 14th. The administration's anti-gold hoarding slid into salinity last week. They actually took in $36 million, which was $7 million the week before. $36 million in a week? Oh man, I'll tell you how scared people were and desperate. Fucked up. This. Let's see. Where's the Supreme Court? There's no Supreme Court thing in here. Oh, okay. Mr. Campbell attempted to take the case to the Supreme Court. However, it chose not to rule on the subject, dismissing the case at the bidding of the administration. The Solicitor General argued that the gold had been overturned to the government, meaning nothing was left to be litigated. So the guy turned over the gold, but then complained about it, and they said, "Well, there's nothing to litigate because he turned it over." Damn. See, even that dude was standing his ground, and he was still scared. He's like, "I'll do it, but I'm arguing this thing," right? You know, I tell you, see how people are scared of the government? It's so sad, isn't it? You know, they got these people down. They got people under control. They use fear, man. Fear of loss and all that crap. Yeah, thank you. What's the chances there? Oh, you know, that's a good point. Will they be calling the charges something different? I know, that was a lot of money. They will, well, now we're talking like almost 100 years ago. Nowadays, they track everybody through the phones, through other, you know, through the computers, the banks, everything's digital. So they track you and they'll hunt you down real fast today. They're psychotic. They're psychotic. Remember the guy that was on earlier? He talked about how they just stole money from his account. For what? They're like, oh, the court ordered it, but there was no court case. They just magically poof created a court case, didn't tell him about it, and stole his money. Fucking assholes. All right, you see, these are scumbags. I would. Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, well, you're just starting out, so don't hide your gold, hide your kids. They're stealing everybody out here, man. They're stealing people. They're stealing the gold. They're even stealing They're like, hey, we printed this out for your use, but now give it back to us. Right, like the money. They're like, oh, money, currency, right? They're like, we printed this out for you, now give it over. Because it cost us money to give that to you. They would have done what Nepal just did with their government. Oh, yeah, Nepal just overthrew their government. And then they had all new elections and stuff. They overthrew, by the way, when they overthrew the government, doesn't mean that they changed the government itself or the rules or functions of government. They just got rid of all the bad, players, is what they did. As I thought they changed the government, but they went and held a new election like right away. And I said, oh, so they didn't actually modify the government itself. They just got rid of the bad players. But that was, that's still pretty awesome. The credit system doesn't even make any sense. Like your lowest credit score is 320, and I think the highest is like 800 or 900 or something like that. Like even the numbers don't even make sense. Like it's like, what, if the lowest credit score you can have is 320, why is that a base? Why is 320 a base? Like that doesn't even make sense. And then everything's bad. Like the majority of the credit score line is bad credit, and then there's the little top part is the good credit and then great credit, the little tiny thing. What? Just it doesn't even make sense. It was made with somebody, so whoever designed the credit system, the credit score system, is a fucking nut job, right? Because the base is 320, which I don't get it. It's just like, the difference between Celsius and Fahrenheit. Like Fahrenheit, water boils at 32 degrees. Is this what they're using? Is this how he did it? He goes, well, we'll just use the Fahrenheit system. You know, like, what the fuck, you know? And but Celsius makes more sense. Although, you know, in America we're going to use Fahrenheit because fuck the rest of the world, right? And let's just confuse people. But you know, Celsius 0 is freezing, right? I said 32 for boiling. I meant like freezing. Freezing or defrosting. It's the same number, by the way, for melting ice or freezing water. It's 32 degrees. The brown note. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean the whole credit system, it doesn't even make sense. Right? It's based off of like Fahrenheit and you know, but it's like, oh, your credit's bad, your credit's bad, your credit's bad, your credit's bad, your credit's okay, it's fair now. Oh, now it's good. But all this here they consider bad, and then this little portion on top is good. It's just stupid. It just tells you how they're just manipulating that thing. What they should do, all right, if you want a real actual credit score and a fair credit score rating, is what they should do is make the bottom 0, make the top 100, right? This is really simple. And then anything over 50 is good. Right? I mean, of course, you know, 50 is like fair, and then 50 to 60 is okay, you know, it's a little better. 60 to 70, 70 to 80, and 80, 90, and then 90 to 100 is like perfection, right? It's like perfect. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, writ of mandamus. So a writ of mandamus is essentially when lower court's not doing the thing it's supposed to be doing, or it's doing something that it shouldn't be doing, and you have to have the upper court reprimand it to tell it to follow its what it's supposed to be doing. That's what a writ of mandamus is. It's the upper court telling the lower court how to do its job properly because it's not doing it right. Okay, that's all a writ of mandamus really is. All right, it's very simple. You know, like if the lower court is supposed to give you a trial by jury, and the judge is like, "No, you're not going to get a trial by jury. No, you don't get one because this is my courtroom." You do a writ of mandamus with the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court comes down and says, "The fuck is your problem? Give him his trial by jury, you dick." Right? Essentially, that's what they're saying. They're going to say it much nicer, but I'm not going to be nice about it. You know, if I was a justice in the Supreme Court, I'd be like, "Stop being an asshole and give him his trial by jury." I'll write that on paper. I don't care. You know, if someone complains about it, I go, well, check your First Amendment, all right, and see what it says, and then come back with me with charges if you feel like, you know, I did something wrong. Like the whole FCC thing, like with the, you know, you can't talk. Out of respect for children, I wouldn't do it, but they can't tell you what you can and can't say. Yeah, yeah, hold these people accountable. But that's all the writ of mandamus is. It's basically the upper court telling the lower court to get back in line and back in order. All right. Like, hey, this is something you need to do. It wasn't done. Fix it. Right. Um, so, and you can do that, by the way, even in a traffic case. Okay. See, the traffic courts are a problem. By the way, I'm going to write a memorandum of law on quasi-criminal courts for people to be able to use in their court cases, because I found the problem with these courts, with traffic courts, is that they call them quasi-criminal courts. I did a video on Rumble about it, so check it out. But the problem with these quasi-criminal courts is the fact that they lack due process. Okay, you walk in there, they say, "You're here, you're guilty, pay a fine, get out. You're here, you're guilty, pay a fine, go to jail, get out." Right? And then when you try to make an argument, they go, "No, that doesn't apply here," because it's quasi-criminal, meaning that it's civil, meaning that it's all about contracts and enforcement of contracts, but it's criminal, meaning that they basically say you're harming people, you're hurting people, and you know, you get to go to jail, right? Criminal court has trial by jury, right? So you have a right to a trial by jury in the criminal court, okay? In a civil matter, and you can go to jail under criminal courts, right? And yeah, family law is the same thing. It's bullshit. And then, but family court's bullshit because they don't have a right to interfere with personal fucking things. If someone in the family is abusive, then the court should step in. But outside of that, it's none of their fucking business. Zero. None at all. That's why I don't even get involved. People ask me about, oh, what about family court? I don't get involved in that because it's your family. And so I'll get to that question in a second. There's a question in the Zoom chat, but um, but the quasi-criminal courts, they offer no protections under criminal procedures. They offer no protections under the civil procedures. So you actually don't get due process in these courtrooms. And most states use quasi-criminal for traffic cases. So that way it's always a win-win. This is why they always win in these traffic cases. You have to pummel the shit out of the prosecutor with paperwork in order to get this stuff, to get the cases dropped, right? Like you have to do all kinds of crazy stuff with these guys because they're like, it's an unconstitutional courtroom. 100%. There's no quasi-criminal anything in these courtrooms, or in the Constitution anyway. So they're just fabricated. What they're really using is the Commerce Clause and Admiralty in order to execute all these court cases, right? Because Admiralty is what? It's commerce, right? Admiralty Maritime is commerce with criminal penalties, and that's what they're doing. That's what they are. So in these, but they won't call it that. Like you can go into court and push the issue, and they'll drop the case, right? If you try to corner them with the Admiralty Maritime courts, they'll drop the case on that, on that because they don't want to admit to it. But they'll tell you it's quasi-criminal, and then you're kind of screwed. The courts of chancery are gone too, except in certain states. New Jersey has them. I think Tennessee has them. Delaware, and then there's one other state I don't remember. And then DC has the Court of Claims. Well, no, not the Court of Claims. There's an equity court there, Court of Chancery. Religious exemption has a job. She requests Sundays off specifically for specific. They continue to add her on the work schedule on Sundays. Wow, that's fucked up. So I would write a letter saying to the whoever's putting her on the schedule, right? You should write to their boss and go, does my daughter not have the right to recognize her religious beliefs on Sundays? Right? Is she not allowed to, recognize her religious beliefs on Sundays? This is screwed up. Like, look, I can't work on Sundays because that's a religious day for me, and my God specifically told me that I can't work. That day is for rest and for spiritual observance. Can you show me where you guys will not? Just let me know if you guys don't respect my religious beliefs. Just let me know. But I think if you say that to the boss, right, to the owner of the company or something, or to a supervisor or a general manager or something, depending on what kind of business it is, they're probably going to look at this and go, I think we're going to have a lawsuit on our hands. Let's just give her Sundays off. Don't put her on the schedule for Sundays, right? Because as soon as you start bringing up, spiritual observance, First Amendment right, it's in this, state. It's definitely in the state constitution, 100%, always. You know what? Let's look it up. New York Constitution. Let's go to the New York Constitution. Let's go see. Is there religious freedom in the state of New York? Does the state of New York recognize religious freedom? I'm gonna just assume that it's gonna say yes. All right. So here's the state constitution. All right, and we're gonna check it out here. So yeah, I use the state constitution. Really scare them. All right, we the people of the state of New York, grateful to Almighty God. We didn't even get one sentence in. They were talking about God. Almighty God, for our freedom, in order to secure its blessings, do establish this Constitution. Rights and privileges. No member shall be disenfranchised, deprived of any of the rights secured to any citizens thereof, unless by law. Okay, it's not in that one. Freedom of worship, it's number 3. The free exercise and enjoyment of religious profession and worship without discrimination or preference shall forever be allowed in this state to all humankind, and no person shall be rendered incompetent to be a witness on account of his or her opinion on matters of religious belief, but the liberty of conscience hereby secured shall not be so constrained as to excuse acts of lasciviousness or justify practices inconsistent with the peace or safety of this state. All right, now here's what we're going to do. Okay, let's come up with a little Word document here. All right. We're not going to do like a formal legal, paperwork, but we can just draft like a little something. Okay, based off of this. And what we'll do is say, to whom it may concern, and you can always change it to whoever. And let's change the font. I don't like that font. That font's kind of whack. To whom it may concern. I have requested to have Sundays probably the capital S thing off for religious observation as my, let's see, I have been put on the schedule. So this is what happens. Sometimes I got more to say. I can't type it that fast. We had a man who bowed and prayed before work every day, same time. The owner fired him. Oh, wow. That's crazy. Dude, that guy should get sued. I would sue that guy in federal court immediately. Sue that motherfucker. Because, no, I don't care. I worked in an office in the city, and a Muslim guy came and started working there, and he had to pray like I think 3 times during the work days, and the boss was like pissed about it. And I told him, remember, I was a consultant. I didn't actually work for the company, and I said, if you try to fire this guy over this, you're going to be paying this guy way more than what you're paying him for a salary. And he goes, really? I was like, yeah, dude, let him pray. He ain't gonna be gone very long. He's gonna be gone like 10, 15 minutes tops. All right. You got people who smoke cigarettes and they go and leave, right? Smoking cigarettes and they leave like 8 times a day. So I was like, I think you're okay with this. You should be fine with this one. And he let it go. But yeah, I told him, I was like, nah, you're gonna be paying this guy millions of dollars if you try to screw him over. I've put on the schedule on Sundays anyway. This is not only a hardship for me to confront having to violate my own religious beliefs, but it is also a violation of the New York Constitution, Article 1, Section 3. Then we're just going to copy and paste this. All right, just copy it, boom, paste it. Oh, we'll do it like this. We'll do that, and then that. There you go. See that? As you may or may not be aware of, this is also a violation of United States Constitution, Amendment 1. And we'll do that too. We'll just copy and paste that in here. First Amendment. This states that I can file suit against anyone who violates my right to practice my religious beliefs. I do not want to do anything of that sort, but each individual who is involved in violating my rights and the company as a whole will have to will have a suit, and you can always modify this to make it a little calmer, okay? New York has two beliefs. Oh, there's 6 state constitutions for New York. Yeah, I know. They keep changing them. Well, we're going to do this now. We're going to do this. I do not want to do anything of the sort, but each individual involved violating my rights and the company as a whole will have a suit against them due to me having to protect my rights as recognized. Oh. By the state and federal constitutions, and as my duty to the Lord, or whatever you can put, Lord God, whatever, make it fit for your things. All right, but something like that, and then you can add in your other piece if you want to put it in there. If you want to put names of people who are involved in that, putting all that stuff in there, you can do all that as well. But I think you guys can see all that, right? I think you can see that. Yeah, essentially that's what we'd be doing. It's a letter kind of like that. And then you just tell them, I'm going to sue you. If you just stop putting me on Sundays. That's all. Right? And, oh yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. But that's all. Just say, please, just take me off Sundays. I'll work any other day. Got no problem with that. Just not Sundays. All right. That's the day for me and my family to get together and observe our, religious beliefs and be united with God and whatever have you. I personally don't care what your religious beliefs are. It doesn't matter to me. But your religious beliefs being and your rights to practice, that's important to me. Okay. So that's all that matters. All right. So here, I'll just drop it in the chat here. You can just have it. Oh, it won't let me do it. These jerks. Zoom. Let's do it like that. We'll do it in pieces then. So yeah, I just dropped it in the Zoom chat for you. Yeah, by the way, the states do that. They will make new constitutions. They do it all the time. They did that right here in the New York one. As you could see, where was it? In the New York one. This was November 6, 2001. So one thing I would do though, see here, this is a Constitutional Convention 1938. All right. One of the things I would do is go back and look at all your other state constitutions, like New Jersey. I have in New Jersey, we have 3. Okay. The latest one came from the 1940s. Okay. And I would say, take a look at these things because that Constitution, it may or may not override the other ones. But the important thing to remember is that if it doesn't specifically get rid of the other ones, then that means they're all valid, right? It doesn't say anywhere in here before they actually start the Constitution These are revised, as revised with amendments adopted by the Constitution of 1938 and approved. So this one came in 1938 and was amended in there. But be careful some of that stuff because they'll do is they'll squeeze some of the rights out. You know, it's like that towel, the towel that's drying that you already wrung out, and now they're just trying to, you know, wring it out again a little bit more and try to squeeze some more of that out. But yeah, read the state constitution, people. Though, yeah, it's important to read them. Okay. We the people in New York do establish this constitution. So let's see, private property, habeas corpus, grand jury, freedom of press, freedom of speech, right to assemble, common law, equal protection, workers' comp. You know, some of this stuff doesn't. Whatever. Some of this stuff has nothing to do with anything, but anyway, they move stuff around. All right, so I'm gonna head out. Before I go, anyone have any quick questions, comments, or anything they would like to say?
Join the trust community. It's in his link tree. It's awesome information that you don't get on all these lives. And the replays are awesome too.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just shared it in YouTube. If someone wants to share the link on TikTok, please do. But yeah, it would be great. You know, the trust community is like a family. There's definitely stuff I talk about on there because there's no restrictions. We don't have to worry about censorship. We don't have to worry about, you know, mixing public and private because the trust community is private. So all the things we could talk about on there, it's all private info. And there's definitely like tons of stuff that I got like in this filing cabinet that I pull out and show people in the trust community that I will not show and pull out on one of these lives. All right. So it would be great to have you guys on there. We welcome everybody in. You know, we take everyone at face value. You're in. You're part of our group, and you know, you're part of the family. So you know, you can be part of the family. But I think that's it for me. I'd like to thank everybody for hanging out with me. And Mr. Silverfox, I mean, that guy's gonna retire early, man. He's gonna retire early. If he does a proper lawsuit, he's gonna make sure that when he goes out to those you know, the Caribbean islands on one of his many vacations that he brings you along one time, all right, as a thank you. But, you know, that's a big lawsuit right there. We didn't have managers, we only had one owner. Okay. Yeah, doesn't matter. Sue him. That's a violation of the First Amendment, and he can't do that. They have to respect your religious beliefs. They have to. Okay, they can't. It's very un-American to not respect the religious beliefs of others. It's un-American. Okay, so there's a lot of un-American things that Americans are doing nowadays, right? Like, I mean, I don't know if you guys see Quora, but Quora is a website where people like ask questions, and then it's really engaging website. But people go, don't people know that the Second Amendment's been canceled, or that it expired? And I'm like, what? You can't make this stuff up. I got this. I saw this one this morning. I was like, oh man, I should make a TikTok about that one because that's freaking hilarious. Where is it? Oh yeah, here, I'm gonna show you guys. This is freaking hilarious. I mean, people put in good responses to stupid crap like this, but still, you know, it's just amazing. It says, where is it? I lost it. Do gun owners realize that their guns are no longer protected by the Second Amendment as it expired over 100 years ago? I'm like, do you realize that you're a moron? I mean, like,
For sure.
like
Jeez.
where's the expiration date on that one? Can you show me? You know? Oh, they want me to continue. All right, fine, I'll do that. But I mean, it's just incredible. You know, thank you for your question. I mean, people did say, does the 16th Amendment expire soon too? I'd love to no longer have to pay income taxes. By the way, the 16th Amendment doesn't apply to you, my man. See, he doesn't know. See, he doesn't know this stuff. See, this guy right here, he needs our help because he doesn't know. 16th Amendment doesn't need to expire. You don't have to pay taxes. See? Anyway, I mean, I'll probably find some of these stupid posts on Quora and make some TikToks about them because they're freaking hilarious. There's so many. Anyway, all right. Oh, okay. All right, that's cool. Some links in there. Yeah, thank you for hanging out. I appreciate all you guys. I have a question. I hear a lot of people say there isn't any money. There isn't any money. I'm going to show. I actually have money. I'll show you some money. Okay. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this. Okay. This. Do you call this money? Is this what you're calling money? Pay me $9.99 for this comb. Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. This is not money. This is a Federal Reserve note. A note is a promise to pay money. This baby right here, this is money. Okay, this is minted by the United States Treasury, and it's made out of silver. All right, so this is real money. You can hear it. It has a special ring to it, right? So this is just a credit. This is all this is. It's credits. Now, the problem is that people will tell you there is no money, and they're right. This is currency. Currency is a current, right? A current is a flow of energy. This is a representation of energy. So what has happened here is this. It's really simple. This is currency because it flows of energy. Energy is created by men and women. Men and women create energy by going and working and getting things moving around, right? Changing something, right? All work is about help and change, right? Every job is about help and change. You're going into a job to go change something in order to help things, right? To help other people. All jobs contribute to society one way or another, except politicians. Okay. So that's not a job, it's a public service, and they're not serving the public, I'll tell you that. But what they're doing is that they're using this to keep the flow of energy continuing, so it's called currency, okay? Because it's like an electrical current, and it flows in and out. It goes back and forth, right? And that's what this is. This is currency. This is just to keep the gears turning, to keep it moving. It's energy. It is an idea backed by confidence. You have confidence that you can take this thing and trade it for something that you need or want, right? You have confidence. You have much more confidence that this $1 of silver will get you more things and more services that you want than this $5 promise, right? So you know that this has more value. Because of that. And this under the Constitution is the only thing that will pay a debt. All this does is kind of move the debt to the side, right? The debt is considered pushed off to the side. It sets it off. But this thing itself is still a promise to pay money in the future. That's why it's called a note. Okay. Yeah. They're like Home Depot 2x4s. They're crooked as shit. Oh my God, that's a great joke. I love that. Politicians are like Home Depot 2x4s. Oh, that's so good. Yeah. Oh man, that's so good. But yeah, that's so. But the thing is this: we do live in this society where they did take away the money. Okay, and we're left with currency. So when people are asking, say, hey, there's no money, but give us $9.99. What they're asking for is, hey, I still need to feed my family, and I know there's no money, but we need to keep this flow of currency moving through the people. Let's keep it going. All right. And that's what they're really asking for, you know? So I know there's some guys out there I've heard guys out there like, oh, did you tap into your secret trust yet? Your Sasuke trust? But bro, you don't understand. Right? Like one time someone made a critical remark about me. I was on a TikTok talking, someone else's live, and I was talking about how the financial system was set up. And then I said, hey, look, I got to go. I got to get to work. And some guy goes, oh, a guy with all the answers has to go work still? Oh, you couldn't tap into all of that trust money? And I go, what money? He's like, you know, necessitate trust. I go, there's no money. There's no money. You failed to everything I explained to you, and you failed to realize the simplicity of everything I was saying. There is no money. There's currency. All right. And yeah, you still need currency in order to get food, right? I got kids. I got those kids eat, they eat every day. Who knew? Kids eat every freaking day. And they need clothes all the time. Like that was one of the things that shocked me. Clothes. You gotta keep buying clothes. So yeah, whatever. But that's all it is. We're dealing with currency. And I'm not gonna put those people down for asking for some because you know everyone's got to feed their family. And if they're giving you something in return that's valuable to you, then it's okay, right? That's a commodity, and we can trade in commodities. You know, like everyone here has traded things. Like you've traded like a baseball card for like maybe a baseball glove, or you traded one toy for another toy, right? We're just doing that with labor. The money is basically a symbol of the amount of energy that you've used, right? Like I go, okay, this $5 bill, right? Uh, this $5 note says that I did something that created this much energy, right? I used this much energy and I got this in return for the amount of energy that I pumped out, right? So it's a symbolization of your energy, and then you put that into use. Now, the smarter you are, right? That's energy too, by the way. Sitting down reading books is not like, you know, it's not like a little like, oh yeah, that's what the wimps do. No, it could burn you out, like physically burn you out. Like you got to go take walks and stuff like that. Make sure you have energy, because if you're not well rested and you're not well fed, sit down and read a book, right? And you're gonna find out how hard it is. Okay, so yes, you still need energy for that stuff too, and education is very valuable. Okay, because education solves a lot of problems. All right. And hopefully I'm helping you people solve some problems out there today. All right. I hope so. But yeah, it'd be great if you guys join the community. We're a big family, and we all care for each other out there. All right. Close wasn't listening. Oh, but that's about it. So I think that's it for me. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate all you guys, and I'll see you guys later.
Thanks for all you do, Joe.
Thank you.